So good morning everyone, thank you. So I'm the last one up this morning. So quick introduction to myself and what I'm going to talk about today. So my name is Darren Leach, I'm the UK Channel Sales Manager here at SecurEnvoy. We're primarily a two-factor authentication vendor. We're talking to a lot of our customers today about some of the challenges from an authentication perspective. This is driven obviously a lot by some of the compliance standards that we're talking about these days. GDPR that Jason was talking about earlier, some of the new PCI standards, but also some of the recent security breaches. And I'm going to talk about some of those challenges that we're seeing from our customers. So just a quick overview of SecurEnvoy. We're primarily a UK-based organisation with a global presence. We've been working with our customers here for nearly 15 years. We've got a great customer base, both large and small, public sector and corporate. So we've been supporting them and working with them from an authentication perspective. Lots of these customers have been with us for 5 or 10 years. So it's a whole wide range of organisations. I think for us, certainly from an authentication perspective, it shows that it doesn't matter if you're a large tier 1 corporate or a smaller organisation with your public sector or corporate. For the recent challenges that we're seeing across the security space, authentication is really a key part of your business from a security strategy. And I'll talk more about that today. So some of the challenges that we're seeing from our organisations this year, obviously with compliance. In Jason's presentation, I saw things around passwords, two-factor authentication. Certainly GDPR is a lot about data and understanding data and visibility and a whole range of technology, authentication and understanding who your users are, how they're authenticating is a key part of your GDPR discussions. Also with PCI, so if any of you store any kind of credit card information or PCI information, if you've got remote workers logging on and accessing that credit card information, again, you have to consider the authentication strategy. We're seeing a lot of our customers moving to sort of cloud-based services. So again, I think one of the other presenters was talking about Office 365. So if you're moving your infrastructure to cloud-based services, we're seeing customers who are deploying all kinds of security measures, but they've moved Office 365 and they're still logging in with a username and fixed password to log into their applications in the cloud. So that's obviously a security concern and risk by sending that fixed password over to those web-based services. And we're also seeing customers things like Office, other web access, SharePoint, or any Amazon or Salesforce, these other CRM or other cloud services that you're using. You've got to consider how your users, whether it's your users or your customers or your suppliers, are logging on to those web services. A lot of people are talking about digital transformation, but primarily organisations are making more internet-enabled services. For example, we've got a lot of local government customers now, and a lot of them are now, you can now log into a lot of local government to pay poll tax and check services online. That's also going across the corporate space. So again, customers are now enabling a lot more services that their users are logging in securely. And still a lot of those environments are still using username and password to log into those services. So that's again that those organisations are now looking to how do they improve that element of security. Touched on that earlier, again, cloud-based services. Again, it's primarily could be services that you're using or you're offering to your customers. But again, it's that concern of what is going across the internet. Again, you want to avoid the situation of relying on fixed or static passwords going across that environment. We've seen quite a big drive, especially in areas like London, for example, where it's densely populated with buildings. And a lot of organisations have got more flexible remote or home working. They want their workers to work from home for VPN access, web authentication. Again, that's a big driver for what we're seeing from a secure authentication perspective. Also, in the recent weather conditions, a lot of snow both across the UK. So we saw a big driver from organisations with their employees working from home now. What we didn't want to do, what organisations don't want to do is force their workers to drive in the snow and log in, for example. They can enable their users now to log in securely rather than put themselves at risk from driving in some of the conditions that we're seeing at the moment. So the questions we're getting asked now is that customers are now enabling more services, not traditional VPN, but also web services and other areas with their business And with these drivers from compliance and generally from a security perspective, how do we identify those users and how do we authenticate those users securely now with a lot more of these services that we're starting to deliver for some organisation? So some of the challenges, certainly from the fixed password perspective, again, we all know the headaches of a password. Do you make it too simple and people will just use it, 1234 or Darren 1234, or do you make it too complicated? If it's too complicated, then people could keep forgetting it and it becomes a bit of an administration headache for the IT team. Again, you may use the same password. I mean, how many people here have a password for your internal IT use, and then if you go to Gmail or to Tesco's.com or whatever you may do, you use the same password. That's obviously a considerable risk. You get breached in one area, people are going to work out what you're using to log that password onto other applications that you may be using. We've seen this before where people have post-it notes or people hand around fixed passwords. We've seen people who have administrators who offer administration passwords to colleagues or other people as well. So, it's a major risk of handing around passwords and managing passwords. It's a key part of your business. A lot of customers store critical data, sensitive data, and they're handing away admin passwords, administration IDs. It's a major challenge for customers. The other thing was, how do the people know that they haven't already been breached? You may have people logging into your system that some of them may already know their recent passwords. So it's been so many breaches recently where TalkTalk, Carphone Warehouse, I'm sure some of the ones that Jason was talking about earlier, that a lot of them are database breaches where they get hold of your username and password. So if they've got your password from that somehow, then you may be using that same password to log into your business systems. So it's a major headache now as organisations become more internet-enabled and more compliance requirements. How do they manage that process? So what is multi-factor authentication? So primarily it's something, not only is it something you know, but something you have. So the market is really moving towards sometimes, one of the main options is using a phone, for example. You can use a phone as an additional way of authenticating. I'll talk more about some of the options there. We're not looking at, about 5 or 10 years ago, a lot of customers used to use hardware tokens. I don't know if anyone's seen those types of tokens that would generate a one-time passcode, maybe even smart cards or other things that you may have to plug in. I think because there's quite a major cost overhead from administration and buying those and replacing those, that the market is now looking for easier ways to strongly authenticate applications and services. So either a phone or some other way of generating those passwords, securely logged in. Again, it's about delivering it securely, but also reducing that cost and overhead. Primarily, you use some kind of soft token way of authenticating. You don't have to manage those hardware tokens and the cost of delivering it. And again, you don't have to worry about those lost tokens. I mean, how many people that may lose cards or tokens? If you've got a large remote workplace or remote workers, they're going to lose their hardware tokens. They're going to break them. They're going to damage them. So using something either on their laptop or a phone is the easiest and simplest way for users to authenticate to security. The other thing with authentication is a little bit about the end user's experience. For most companies, it's about getting the balance right between enabling your services securely, but low impact on your users. It's about making sure that they're logging on securely, but not making it too complicated. Some organisations that the users aren't necessarily their focus on the IT, maybe they're another part like legal or other areas, so they're not necessarily the most strong at the IT side of things. So you need to make sure that your users are comfortable on how they securely authenticate. And I think certainly with the compliance requirements and the breaches now, the challenge is how do you deploy authentication but still make it easier for your users to strongly authenticate and not impact them too much that it stops them doing their job. So there's been lots of recent breaches recently. We're going to talk about a couple of them, one of them, but primarily just three, who are obviously a well-known sort of phone brand here in the UK. They were actually breached in October 2016, so it's quite a recent one. There's even another one with Deloitte recently as well. But primarily what's happened with them, they used to have a web-based customer portal where people would log in with their username and password. So if you were a free customer, you'd log in with a username and password. That got breached back in October. And primarily what happened was the people that breached them then had access to that web portal system. And what they ended up doing was we had the ability to then, start changing people's addresses so they can start issuing new phones to whatever address they wished, but also have access to people's phone records, for example, as well. So once they breached that portal, that they had visibility to change the admin service as well. We've also seen it with Deloitte and a whole range of other customers. So certainly the message from this is certainly if you've got any web portal being quite critical areas, if you've got any web-based services and people are logging in at the front end with a username and password, that's obviously a risk from your business perspective on how you log in, how your users are logging in securely. It's happening all the time, actually. Sort of login authentication is a key part of the security risk for customers. So why SecurEnvoy? So I'm going to go a little bit more on the technical and the product right now, just giving it the idea of how we fit from a product perspective. We primarily talk to our customers about an in-house on-premise solution, so we run within your environment. Some of the key things about that, it gives you a secure deployment. It's also very scalable, so we can run from 5 users up to thousands. But the main thing from our perspective is that it's secure both from a management and the deployment perspective within your environment. We integrate with a number of key areas of applications. We protect cloud-based applications. So if you're starting to run any of these types of services, or your users are starting to log into any of these types of services, Office 365, SharePoint, Amazon, Salesforce, any of these web-based services, we can now use our technology to plug in there to use two-factor authentication. So don't rely on that static password. Look at a way of enabling two-factor authentication there to plug into those environments. The new version we've launched, we've also been integrated with web-based authentication. I mentioned, we touched on that earlier with the 3 scenario, but we can now integrate with web-based access. So again, if you've got a web portal, there's a business service that your users are logging in, so it could either be your internal users or users that aren't in your domain structure, we can now enable two-factor authentication. We'll start to see this a little bit more, things like Gmail and other websites now. Customers, organizations are really looking at how they authenticate their users. A lot of them doing like the grid and other types of technologies, and then you'll start to see that. But all types of authentication organizations now are looking at how they enable web authentication security. Very few services that I'm seeing are relying on a static password, and I would be concerned logging into a web-based service that relied on a static password, because that's going across the internet. So we can integrate there. We also work with all the leading SSL VPN gateways, such as SonicWall and all the other leading vendors there. So if you've got a firewall or VPN service for your remote workers, we can plug in two-factor authentication there to enable that security as well. Also things like Citrix, which is a quite key area for us as well. But any remote service we can plug in nicely from an authentication perspective. We also protect your internal environment. So there's still a risk internally where maybe you've got Windows domain logons, or your users, once they're in your organization, on your network, and they're logging into your network. So there's a risk maybe there's someone in your building that could just use a password and log into your environment. So we can enable authentication for access to when you log on in the morning. So most people would log on with their username and domain password. We can enable that with two-factor. So when you log onto the network, you can log on securely with two-factor authentication. Also, if you've got domain servers, that once you're logged on, we can prompt that authentication as well to make sure that's securely logging on. So we have a way of protecting the internal environment as well. The other area that we work within the Windows environment is enabling the authentication from the static password element. So one of the challenges that we have with our customers is that a lot of their users have a headache with managing the password. So when people are changing their passwords or locking out their passwords and locking out their account. So we have a way of enabling a self-service functionality so the user can change their password by either using authentication or predefined questions to securely either change their password if it's locked out or unlock the account. So we can deliver that securely to our customers now. And I think customers like that because it's moving the IT overhead from the administration team to the user base, but also allowing them to do it securely. Especially with the cloud services now, more and more users are being enabled for web services, and the challenge of managing that from a Windows password perspective is a headache. It's a big challenge for the IT team. But we can combine that with authentication as well. So from an end user perspective, we have a range of authentication. SecurEnvoy actually worked with the pioneers in developing what we call SMS or two-factor authentication, so generating SMS with one-time authentication. But we have a range of authentication options. Say, for example, some of the most popular ones are, most people have a smartphone these days, whether it's an iPhone or a Samsung or whatever it may be. So you can have an app on your phone and it can generate a one-time password that you can log in securely. SMS is still very popular. It's sending a text message with an SMS. We're also seeing some of the newer technologies, which I'll talk on shortly, around push and some of the other new technologies. But we have a choice here from a soft token perspective that you can look at that should give you a flexible approach, whether you manage your phones for your users or you don't manage your phones, or you manage their laptops. There should be an option for most user environments here from an authentication perspective. We do support hardware tokens. Primarily, we are a soft token option from our authentication, but we've had a few larger sort of financial central government organisations that have certain teams within their business units that want authentication. So we can provide a USB authentication if required. Primarily, what this does is you just plug it in as a USB stick. You press this button here, and it kind of pushes an encrypted passcode into the application to log on securely. So it's an option if you require hardware token authentication as well. Some of the newer things that we're seeing is, from an authentication perspective, things called NFC and push. Now, does anyone use Apple iPay when you go in and you use your phone to authenticate now? So it's starting to become more common payment. So this is what we're starting to see in the authentication market. Some people are now taking their phone, they're not using their credit cards, they're just using their phone to authenticate. That's the way the market's moving. We do two things around this area. First of all, we can use push for authentication. So we could enable our phone, your laptop devices support the push connector in their laptops. What you could do is your user could just tap the device and it could securely log you into an application. In addition, you can customize it so it logs into the application as well. So Allo Web Access, Citrix, or SSL VPN, so at one tap you can tap and securely log in. We also have something called push authentication, which means what that's doing is removing the need for one-time passcodes. So most users using authentication have a token and it generates that one-time passcode. What we're seeing with push now is you can log in, and what it does is sends a request to your phone, and all the user has to do is to accept on the phone, and it will log them in securely. So the key part of push is really simplifying that end user experience now to log in. All they've got to do is to accept. So from a security perspective, it's meeting your authentication perspective, but from an end user, they're not saying, oh, I can't do this, I'm not comfortable with this. All they've got to do is to accept on their phone, and it's delivering a secure authentication. So it's making it easier for maybe organisations and users that didn't use two-factor in the past to use it securely now. We also have nice auto-user provisioning, so whether you're a 5-user or a larger organisation, we have a lot of auto-enrolment and group policies to enrol lots the users very quickly and easily. So it's all linked to LDAP and some of the group configuration that we can do. We also have a lot of self-service functionality to make it easier for the IT team to deliver this and manage this securely as well. So some nice functionality. There's also some web portal there as well. So from an IT administrator perspective, it's very easy to deploy quickly large user environments. Again, there's emergency help desk. So again, maybe the IT team are a 9 to 5 and you're trying to log in at the weekend or in the evening. We have a lot of functionality, both from a self-service perspective or temporary access that allows the user to log in and log in securely as well. So there's functionality there. If that's a concern about having that within your environment, we've got a lot of features and functionality to ensure that there's a resilience there. If it's in the evening, the user can log in, they can update their password, they can request temporary codes as well. There's functionality there enabling you, the OT team, to make sure that it's supported as well. There's also, we can do a lot of customization. So if you want to put any of your branding on it, any company information, company logo, we can kind of brand the environment. Put your logo on there as well. So it just makes it look more like a business application that you're delivering as well. Maybe if you're a retail organisation or a finance organisation, you can make it look like it's a service that you're doing. We also work with a lot of the SSL VPN providers. So if your users are logging into an SSL VPN, we can kind of work with them and modify and make that look nice as well. We also migrate from other solutions. So if you're using an alternative solutions, we integrate nicely with that to allow a smooth migration. So you may be using an existing hardware token solution, and you may have 5 or thousands of users or whatever it may be. We can plug in there nicely to allow you to do a smooth migration to a pure soft token solution. We're doing that quite a bit actually. We have a lot of hardware token customers who are globally and are rolled out everywhere, and what they're doing is they can switch those off quite nicely because they just point it to our environment, check for a user in our environment, and they're not there. So we can kind of do it in a nice stage migration to allow you to do it both technically and commercially nicely to move from a legacy platform to a new platform. So just a few questions then, I guess. I mean, certainly if you've got any questions around authentication, we're here today with the Starcom team. If you've got any questions around two-factor, please come over and have a chat with us. Keen to help with the authentication requirements, not only for VPN, but those web services or cloud services that you're looking to enable. Certainly GDPR PCI compliance. There is a standard in PCI now around authentication and strongly authenticate. We can certainly help you with that. We can certainly look at a demo or WebEx. We can arrange a web demo and evaluation as well, so you can get the product and test the product and integrate with your environment. So here to help. I mean, is anyone using or used two-factor within their environment at the moment? Has anyone come across it?
French client.
Okay. Are they using hardware tokens or software tokens? Okay. Yeah. And is anyone delivering web services with static passwords for your users? Is anyone doing that at the moment? Okay. But yeah, maybe if you've got any questions, we're here. I'm here today, so just keen to see how we can help you. All right.
Thank you.